General travel notes. So things that occurred to me while we were going out and about that aren't necessarily culturally related, but are nevertheless worth knowing. So first thing I'm going to say is I would strongly strongly advise in investing in something like this. So it's a little sling bag, goes over your shoulder, and sits on your front. Got a couple of accessible zips on the front. And what I was using this for was to hold my notebook and pen, my passport, travel money, and some useful notes that had been given to us by the tour operator. Like a couple of useful phrases, like, around medical things, and just general notes that they'd given us about cultural stuff. Had that on hand everywhere. Most places don't count it as carry-on luggage because it's on you. You can take it onto subways, you can take it on public transport. You won't upset anyone by having a big bulky bag. So it's just good for carrying the essentials. And also, as an additional, um, take your passport like everywhere. It's one of the very few universally accepted forms of ID if you're not from the country. I believe the police have the right to request identification from anyone with pretty much no reason. The last thing you want is to just accidentally commit some minor crime like jaywalking. I'm from a country that doesn't observe jaywalking, but I believe they do. And you don't want to get pulled up by a police officer who can't really communicate with you and really would like to see your papers, please. So, at least keep your passport on you at all times. You may avoid trouble. We didn't need it at any point. Never really needed the passport apart from, I think, when we were just picking up tickets for things that we'd already pre-booked, just as a means of saying this is who I am. But you don't want to be in a situation where you need it and you don't have it. Next thing. So, London, UK, separate entities. London is not the UK. It's a whole other ballgame. Similarly, Tokyo, Japan. Different, way different. Tokyo has its own culture, its own people, so on and so forth. And I believe the same is really true for almost every city. So, like Osaka, I don't believe was representative of the entirety of the sphere of Japan in general. Um, so be aware that if you go to Japan and your holiday in Japan consists of 1 week in Tokyo, then going back home, you're probably not getting the full Mashins experience. It's worth travelling around a bit. I mean, we didn't see the whole thing. We spent a long time there. We moved to quite a few regions. There's still plenty we haven't seen. Um, IC card. I don't have mine. We handed them back for there was a deposit on them. So there is a card that you can obtain over there. In fact, there's a number of cards. I believe they go by various names. There could be an IC card, a Suica card, a Manica card. I think they're just different brands of a similar thing. They behave rather like an Oyster card over here, being a small debit card shaped sized object that you can put into machines at transit hubs, charge up with an amount of money, and then when you're going through onto buses, onto trains, onto subways, you can just tap the card on a reader and get charged an amount automatically. Um, Absolutely invest in one of these things. I mean, you can use them on certain vending machines. They are really widely used, and traveling on public transport is so streamlined because of it. So I would quite like it if we had a similar thing over here, although at least we have contactless payment now. It's pretty recent, but yeah, get a card. Definitely worth it. Um, Anything you purchase, if you're spending more than 5,000 yen, which I think is roughly equivalent to, I'm going to say about £30, I think. Uh, Sounds about right, yeah. Um, Ask if the establishment does tax free. Just say tax free. Some places do, some places don't. But anything over 5,000 yen, if it's an establishment that does such a thing, they will sell you the item devoid of tax, so you'll just get some free money back. You may get the cash knocked off your price, or you may have to go to a counter and claim the cash back. But you will have to show your passport to prove that you're from outside of the country, and you will have to promise that you are not going to consume the product within the country. So you're going to use it once you leave. So it's particularly useful for things like buying sweets as souvenirs, or really buying any souvenirs for anybody back home, or presents and like, but also just items of food that you don't plan to consume until you get back. So, like, we got a couple of bottles of sake, and they did tax free on it, provided that we agreed not to drink it in Japan, which we didn't. It's still downstairs. Um, be careful with doors. Automatic doors, so subway doors, train doors, and lift doors. They seem like they will bite a chunk out of you if your extremities are poking out of them. And if you are on the subway and the train, you'll see signs next to the doors depicting little animated children, or sometimes whatever mascot happens to be in the area, just getting their hands crushed in the train door and looking really upset about it. So yeah, just mind your digits. You don't want to get want to get something cut off. Um, access, disabled access can be a little bit tricky. We didn't see many wheelchairs in the cities that we went to. Um, some places have excellent disability access. They have the ramps and all the rest of it. Public transport is excellent for disabled access. If you happen to be in a wheelchair, then staff members will come rushing off the train, unfold a little stored ramp, give you assistance in getting on the train, and then neatly fold the ramp back up with the efficiency of a Formula One tyre change. Like, it's a very well practiced motion. It's all very respectful as well, and it's very effective. And there's no fiddling around while while the staff work out where on the platform they keep the ramp at the moment and things like that. It's just part of the process. Happens real quick. But certain places, if you need a wheelchair, or if you need, like, a walking assistance like crutches, a stick, or anything, it's worth just having a bit of a look at any venues you plan to go to, especially castles, because castles tend to be decidedly vertical in their construction, and the stairs are kind of murder. Um, we had some advice from a couple of sites online saying that they would recommend wearing loose fitting shoes because of how frequently you're going to have to remove them. This is not something I personally experienced. At castles we had to, at a couple of restaurants we had to, in the hotel room it was advised, and we were supposed to wear slippers around the hotels. Um, Plenty of venues, yeah, there are. You will have to remove your shoes, but not that many. Depending on how long it takes you to tie your shoes up, I don't personally think it's worth it. And Japan is a country in which you have to walk quite a lot. The public transport is efficient and it's very well connected. It will take you where you need to go, but there's still, if you're looking at all the sites, a lot of walking involved. Um, so just bring comfortable shoes, because I was getting pretty crippled after day three. Um, Phrases, useful phrases. This will be good. Right, I got by mostly with the phrases thanks. So that's, you can say, I believe, domo as a very informal, like, thanks, cheers. Arigato is more of a thank you. Then you can add more emphasis, so domo arigato gozaimasu. I think that's about as much as you can get into without without basically begging people. Um, but just being able to say thank you will do a lot for you. Being able to say sorry, which is gomenasai. Being able to say excuse me, which is sumimasen. You'll get a lot of use out of sumimasen. That is your all-purpose. I need to turn the lights on, don't I? This is your all-purpose. Excuse me, I would like your attention. Pardon me, I'm sorry, I'm in your way. Very low-grade apologies, but It's just something that you use. It's like when you say sorry in the UK, it's not necessarily an apology. It can sometimes just be an expression of, to excuse oneself, and it's a good phrase for that. But particularly in like restaurant settings, you'll hear locals just yelling "sumimesen" across the restaurant when they want to get like another drink or something. It's just a word that you use to say, I need some attention, or sorry, I bumped into you. It's a pretty broad word. Um, I also got quite a lot of use out of "where is the toilet," which I don't know if this is correct or polite, but all I could remember while I was over there was "toire wa doku desu ka?" Toilet being the subject of the sentence, so toire, then doku desu ka literally being "where is this?" So toilet, where is it? Um, that's, I mean, sometimes you just need to find the bathroom, don't you? That's about all there is to it. Most places that we went to had a male or female icon on the signs. So I have heard that it's a good idea to learn the symbol for male or female in case it doesn't happen to be represented by the classic, two legs or two legs wearing a dress, kind of like. But that's a dress, that is. But we didn't have a problem with it. Um, maybe just maybe bearing in mind. Uh, Bug bites. We got advice in our information pack to say be careful about the bugs. Maybe pack some bug spray or buy some from a combini or a pharmacy. We didn't listen to that advice and we got devoured. We had welts on our arms, on our legs, faces, necks, all over the place. They lasted the entire trip and they are itchy as hell. So you could either just get used to scratching a lot, maybe wear shorts, or actually, buy bug spray and just deal with smelling like bug spray. One way or the other, you're going to have to deal with it. We never even saw them. They just bit and then left. Um, Go to public bathrooms, you might not find soap. You might not. There'll probably be a tap to use, so you can at least rinse. But I've heard advice to say maybe carry hand sanitizer. It's not bad advice. We did it, didn't use it, but um, if you do see something that looks like a sink with a single tap and a kind of elongated tap where the hot tap should be, chances are that's a soap dispenser. I just don't see them in that style much over here. Just wave your hand underneath it, you'll work it out. Um, Drink constantly. I mean, absolutely all the time. Just keep drinking. The climate over there is similar to ours, except they have humidity where we don't tend to. So dehydration, kind of a big thing because you're going to be sweating a bit. Um, Also, it's worth experiencing the vending machines. I'll get onto that in the. I might get onto that further down actually. Meal reservations, I've gone through that. More food. If you can't get a reservation at a restaurant of your choosing, you can just wander around and try to forage for something. So, if you go to shopping malls, you'll generally find casual restaurants of varying levels of quality. You can usually kind of tell whether they're going to be high end or not just by looking at them. Mall food ain't bad. It's like if you ate at a food court in the US or if you ate in a shopping centre in the UK, it probably won't be a transcendental experience, but it will probably be okay. A lot of our food was. If you go to a takeaway, takeaway food's pretty good. Um, they prefer it that you don't eat while walking though. So if you buy takeaway food, eat it where you bought it. Um, pub food, pub food's interesting actually. Whereas over here, your pub food is generally, sit down meals. There's classic pub grub, so your fish and chips, your pies, your whatever. Pub food over there tends to be very small plate items. You're supposed to order a lot of them. They're supposed to be an accompaniment to your drinks. So if you're planning to have an izakaya dinner, then I get a lot of them. Get a lot of small things because they, on their own, not that filling. But if you get a few, you'll be okay. Also, just get them for the table because izakaya dining is quite social. Everyone just mucks in, grabs what they want. So just get some table food. Um, then, oh yeah, vending machines. I did do something about that. Okay, vending machines, absolutely everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. Almost every street corner, every major establishment, every tourist location, places where you wouldn't expect to see them, down back alleys that look abandoned, have like lit up street vending machines that will offer a wide variety of products. Almost all drinks, you do find the occasional food vending machines. You'll also find the vending machines that will dispense useful products, like we found one that would dispense COVID masks. But generally, it's drinks. The drinks are not what you would expect if you come from a Western nation. So you have your classic range of cold drinks, like in bottled waters, fizzy drinks, like energy drinks and such. You can also get hot soup, hot coffee, hot tea, and a variety of vaguely medicinal beverages. So you can get like vitamin supplement shots. Um, so yeah, vending machines are very worth looking at. Try as many products as you can because there are some really interesting things that you would just not find anywhere else. And it's this just worth keeping an open mind and just trying everything. Also, vending machines are pretty cheap, so yeah, it's good to just keep drinking anyway. So you might as well try something new. Um, the country on a whole is incredibly clean, but if you do consume anything and you have any rubbish and you don't see a bin anywhere, just make sure that you hold on to it. I believe that public bins used to be more common until they had an issue with some ricin gas attacks. I believe that was the main impetus behind removing most of the bins. So you won't find many bins on the streets, but you will find them usually around large congregations of vending machines or in public areas. So keep an eye out. Most bins are of the recycling and what they refer to as combustible. So it's recycling general waste. With the amount of single-use plastics over there, recycling is actually a big deal. Laundry. If you're over there for a long period of time, you're going to need to do some laundry. A lot of hotels have laundry facilities. They'll take a few hundred yen, pretty cheap, and it'll be done. Well, ours was done within a half an hour. Just be aware that the drying facilities are not necessarily all that efficient. Well, they're efficient, I suppose, but everything that we washed came out damp, even when we put it on a couple of dry cycles. So if you're in a hotel, just make sure that you've planned a bit of time to drape your items over furniture overnight, just to give them a bit of an extra dry out, so that you're not packing damp things into your luggage. Guides. If you have the opportunity to go through a tour operator or something similar and to obtain a guided tour of any locations, I would heartily recommend it, especially on your first day. The benefit of the guide is twofold. They will know the region and they'll know the interesting things to take you to. Some may say that they'll take you off the beaten path and take you to the not tourist destinations, like the things that only the locals know. Maybe they will. Some will take you to the classic tourist destinations, and that's fine too. Um, but they'll know what's worth seeing. The other thing is that if you have a guide, they will be able to help you out with things like the right way to order food and how to express that you have some issues with allergies, or that they will be able to explain what kinds of cuisines certain things are. So like you might see a place that's selling gyudon, but if you don't know what that is, then it might be difficult. But they should be able to explain to you what you're getting yourself in for. But having someone there to help you with the ordering process can be incredibly invaluable. We were there for about 3 weeks, well, for the better part of 3 weeks, and we had one final tour guide who it turned out that we really hadn't been doing things quite right the entire time, and we should have been a lot more just open about saying yes, more stuff, more stuff, more stuff. It was supposed to be like like just more of a like a fast and like active experience, and we learned that it's completely okay to just be quite open about expressing I need your attention, I need a drink, please, rather than over here where you'd sort of like try to vaguely wave at someone or try and wait until they come over to your table, ask if you're doing okay. The assumption over there seems to be that you will alert someone if you require their attention, otherwise, they will leave you alone to enjoy your meal, which is really nice. But a guide can be really helpful in just ironing out those little bits of cultural stuff that you maybe don't quite understand. Um, be careful when you're using vending machines or when you order anything, really, because it's not always obvious as to what a drink will do to you. The first place we went to, the first hotel, I ordered a beer and my wife ordered what we thought was lemonade because we hadn't really read the label properly, and it turned out to be very alcoholic lemonade. But even if you go to a normal vending machine and you see it's all just soft drinks, it's also sort of hard to tell if you don't read the language whether a product will be very caffeinated or whether it will do some other interesting thing to you, like make you sleepy because it's some sort of relaxation tea or something like that. So I came to think of going to a vending machine as being a little bit like buying a potion from the apothecary. Like, this might just be some sugar water, or it might be faintly medicinal and have some sort of physical effect on me. And it will never be anything particularly drastic, but you might find something changes. Like, you might suddenly become really alert. So just be careful. Um, if you have a particular sensitivity to any drugs like, caffeine, alcohol, or anything like that, just be especially careful. Um, Pedestrian crossings. If you see a crossing over what looks like quite a busy road, have a look on the other side of the road and make absolutely sure that you can see some kind of crossing light, because a lot of the larger crossings had pedestrian crossing signals, but they weren't in the exact eye-line position that you would expect them to be, because a lot of the overhead real estate is consumed by streetlights, signage, or whatever. Like, there is not an awful lot of spaces at a premium, so sometimes you have to look around a bit for the lights, and you don't want to be crossing on a red. Not every crossing has one. Smaller streets generally don't. Some do. So really, anytime you're crossing the road, just check. Be careful. Um, Baths and toilets. The water closet facilities are absolutely excellent, especially in hotels. Every toilet comes with a bidet, which will offer a variety of exciting functions for the western posterior. Um, I'd advise you to explore them, and I'd advise you to be careful because the first time will probably come as something of a shock if you've never ridden on one before. Otherwise, the toilets are, by and large, more intelligent than most of the appliances in my home. Some of them can tell when you're approaching and will open the lid. The majority of them will tell when you've finished your business and have stood up and will flush themselves. Some have seat warmers. Some have drying functions. Even in some public toilets, they have these things. Um, but also, you'll find that the baths are significantly different. By and large, they're much larger, actually. So I find that most baths in the UK, if I sit down, my legs barely fit because I'm blessed with a very small torso and very long legs. But if I sit down, I can get my legs fully extended, and the water will generally come up to about here, which is absolutely unheard of in this country, and I absolutely loved it. Um, if you're in public and you need to go to the bathroom, be aware that some bathrooms might have the squat toilet, which you may know about if you've looked up anything about Japan, which will appear as a hole in the ground with like a ceramic basin in a depression in the ground, and it will have like a kind of a ceramic hood over one end of it. And being that it's a squat toilet, you're supposed to, here's your basin, you're supposed to stand, you're supposed to squat and do your business, poop, pee, whatever you do. You may see signage on the walls advising how to use the squat toilets, which is very handy for the Westerner that doesn't know how such things work. Um, it would be worth just checking about that before you go. Just make sure that you understand how to use them. But one thing to know is that the majority of public bathrooms, if you see a squat toilet, do not immediately despair. I know that they are a difficult prospect if you're not used to, standing and assuming the position. If you're used to like sitting down, or if you're used to like aiming at a bowl, just check around the toilet facilities, because a lot of places now have the classic squat toilet, which I think is more common among certainly among the older generation over there. And they will also have what they dub the Western toilet, which is probably something you're a lot more familiar with. If you see a button on your Western toilet that looks like it has something to do with music, that will probably make your toilet play an interesting sound effect. The ones I used made running water noises. This is supposed to be like a discretion thing, so if you don't want people to hear your embarrassing toilet noises, then you press the sound effect button. However, if you are about to unleash a fart that would light the beacons of Gondor, then well, it's only going to be so much use. So, um, I wrote do what they do, don't do what they say. I know I said it in the last video, but bears repeating. If you go to a mid-price venue, I tend to find that food was around about the £10 mark, and drinks can be around £1 to £1.50 in current UK prices. Beer, if you're getting it from a machine, tends to be about £2.50, because you do get beer vending machines there. And if you're getting it on draft, maybe about a fiver, give or take. But we had plenty of times where we would go out for a very competently made, very pleasant lunch, and we'd get like a good amount of food, definitely enough to carry you through to dinner comfortably, without being too much, without being too little, and get a draft beer, and it would come to somewhere in the region of about £6. And like eating out, unbelievably cheap over there, provided you're not going to like, Michelin star gourmet venues. But if you're just going for like a casual social eating experience, which is the kind of thing I particularly enjoy, then food will be cheap, cheaper than you would think it would be, cheaper than it is over here. Translation app. Google Translate has become much better over the years, and Google Lens in particular. Google Lens is almost mandatory unless you've actually sat and learned how to read Japanese, because it will at least give you a chance of knowing what you're ordering from restaurants. It's great at venues where they don't have dual language on the signage, like certain kinds of museums and things like that. It's just generally good to be able to read. I haven't experienced true illiteracy in my life, and I find it quite difficult to deal with, because I went over there without a phone. Gum syrup. Just worth bearing in mind, if you're ordering a coffee, it generally will come with creamer, like in little, UHT style sealed pots. And rather than sugar, it will generally come with gum syrup. It seems to do the same job. I don't usually take sugar in my beverages, so I didn't try it, but I have it on good authority from my sister-in-law. The stuff's pretty good. Unless coffee or tea specifically say they're milk tea or milk coffee, it will probably come black. If you're in a hotel or a cafe, it will probably come with milk on the side. But why you should expect things to come black, if you have a milk intolerance, be careful, and it would be worth conveying to the venue, I don't do dairy. It is easier to say like miruku allergy, or literally milk allergy, than it is to try to translate I am lactose intolerant. So just try that. Konbini, or the convenience store. They're everywhere. There's nearly as many of them as there are vending machines. They will generally either be a Lawson or Lawson Station, or a what used to be 7-Eleven, but I believe is now branded as 7&I Holdings, presumably because they're open now longer than 11 hours a day. They are a good place to get a very quick snack or a meal. I would recommend getting at least one full meal that is nothing but weird combini food if you've never eaten weird combini food. We did it the night we landed because we were basically planning to be awake for about as long as it took to eat a meal. So it was just like get something quick and then go to bed. So we ended up getting like sandwiches, onigiri, like beer, and then took it all back to the hotel room and just had a weird hotel picnic. It's worth doing at least once just to see what the food products they have on order on offer. I wouldn't recommend doing it often though because I found that I felt quite unhealthy after eating a lot of combini food. The onigiri isn't so bad, but everything else can be a little bit sweet, a little bit rich. Um, and on that note, you may find that some things are sweet that you wouldn't think would be. Certain kinds of breads, certain egg dishes. So maybe be a little bit wary that that might happen. It's not usually bad, it's just it will come as a bit of a surprise. And it did put me off eating anything involving rolled omelettes. Um, by and large, people over there are of a smaller stature and usually of a smaller build, given that most of them are, you know, quite thin. Um, so just be a little bit aware that things are not generally sized to what we're used to. And the number of times I struck my head on door frames, on shrines, on parts of public transport, on the ceilings in houses, I've hit my head on a number of interesting and exciting things, just simply because I'm a little bit taller than people tend to be over there. And I clock in at somewhere around about 5'11" and a half, 6 foot, depending on what shoes I'm wearing. So just mind your head. But also, public transport might be a little bit more narrow than you would expect. So just be aware that that might happen as well. Um, Coinage. 1 yen and 5 yen basically should not exist. They are useful for absolutely nothing apart from if you go to a supermarket, they may indicate that you need to pay using a payment machine, and you can just pour coins into it and it will sort the coins out and subtract them from your bill. And after that, you can put any notes in you need to or whatever. I would like it if they would do that in this country because I still don't know what you're supposed to do with pennies apart from gather them up in a jar and put them in a change bank. Um, it's bonfire night. 10 yen, good for vending machines. 100 yen is almost like the baseline piece of useful currency. So it's like the £1 coin in the UK. It's like 100 yen will get you a drink from a vending machine, like a cheap one. 100 yen will be how you pay for a laundromat. It will be what you put into a gashapon machine. 100 yen is kind of the king of coins. 500 yen is useful in its place. Not everything accepts 500 yen. Most things accept 100 yens though. Um, Public transport, as I've said, very efficient, usually pretty comfortable, really works. Just be a little bit careful about your etiquette. And if you see a group of Japanese folks all sat on a bench or on a subway seat, and there's one free seat on the end, uh, if you know, I mean, if you're in physical discomfort, sure, sit down. That's reasonable enough. But if you're feeling okay, maybe just let someone else take it because they get a little uncomfortable about proximity, you know. So, and also as the ruling goes over here, anybody elderly, pregnant, disabled with a physical difficulty or anything along those lines, give me a seat if you can. It's just nice to do. Um, I mean, there's signs indicating that you should do that anyway. Uh, Use the trains. Use the trains and the subway to get everywhere because they are great. And train stations and subway stations have dual or multiple language terminals that you can use to purchase tickets, top up your IC card, and things like that. So you can just go up and you can press the English button, and then you will be able to use that terminal. It will make sense. It's not scary. It's all nice and accessible and usable. Bicycles. They're everywhere, and the ruling appears to be contrary to how we do things, that bicycles use the pavement. So watch your back, because you won't get mowed down, but they're everywhere, and people will only use their bell to attract your attention, seemingly if they've been stuck trying to get around you for at least a minute. They are really reluctant to do anything quite so rude as trying to attract your attention so they can get to where they need to go. So just watch your back, and I would advise keeping an ear out at all times for just the telltale sort of whizzing of like rubber on tarmac, because especially in the cities, it's just that's how people get around. Bicycles are really common. Um, I would advise, by and large, don't do many more than two major big things a day. We have commented amongst ourselves repeatedly that if you go on Reddit, you go on r/Japan, you get a lot of people saying, "Please rate my itinerary. I'm planning to go to Japan for 2 weeks." And you'll have a look at what they're proposing, and it'll be like, I'm planning to go to a castle for an hour, then I'm planning to go to this museum for an hour, and da. And they will try to do like 5 or 6 things a day, plus like going out for a sit down meal and whatever. And it's this incredibly hectic, barely physically possible itinerary that leaves no scope whatsoever for, say, transit delays or anything like that. You can try to do that, and if you do, I wish you all the luck in the world. But we had around about 1, 2, 3 activities per day at most, and we were finding that it was nice to have a bit of a rest day every 5 or 6 days just to decompress, because it's a lot of stuff to do, and you'll have to travel a lot. You probably have to walk quite a bit, and it's quite draining. Just being in a completely different place and seeing interesting and different things, and carrying around your personal luggage or whatever you have to do. It is quite tiring. Um, if you're going from city to city, use a luggage transfer service. There is one that we used called Yamato. What they will do is you will go to your hotel and say, I wish to use a luggage transfer service to move my gear from this place to this place. You'll pay a nominal fee, and then at some point during that day, someone will come in a little van, they will pick your things up, and they will carefully transport them to the venue of your choosing, and when you get to your hotel, it will be ready for you. It's worth using because public transport can be very crowded, and honestly, you really don't want to be taking anything larger than a backpack onto the subway, onto the train, onto the bus. There probably won't be room, and you're really going to upset a lot of people if you do it, because nobody does it. So use luggage transfer service, you'll save yourself a lot of stress. They're easy to use, they seem to be pretty reasonably priced. Just make it easy on yourself. You owe it to yourself to do it. You really do. They were great. Could not recommend them enough. And finally, if you're going to a restaurant, chances are that, depending on the kind of restaurant you're going to, particularly lunch venues will do this, you may receive your bill or an itemised list of your order or your order items at the moment your food arrives. They're not necessarily trying to shoo you out of the restaurant as quickly as possible, although some places are designed to be quite high throughput, low price, churn establishments. I've heard some ramen shops are particularly given to that kind of style of eating. But it's purely, you just get the bill when you get the food. Or you get the itemized list, and then you take that up and you pay for what you've got on the list. And it's just how things go. You can order more food if you want to, I think. We didn't try to, but some places that's just how it works. And I like it, actually. I like that the bill comes through quite openly, and that you don't have to, you don't have to do the little wave, or although you shouldn't, don't do that. That's terrible, depending on what country you're in, yeah, just expect the bill to come early, and don't take it as a sign that they would rather you move on, please. So, yes, segueing on from that, we'll get on to food.